Welcome to our presentation of MSAR, MCAT, AMCAS, and beyond, getting from pre-med to medical school with the AAMC. My name is Gilbert. I'm with the first program.
I'm Erin Wiringi, and I'm with AMCAS.
And I'm Becky Rice. I'm with the MCAT program.
We all work at the AAMC, which is the Association of American Medical Colleges, and we're very excited to talk to you today about the resources and tools that the AAMC provides to get you on your career path to medical school. The AAMC stands for the Association of American Medical Colleges. The only reason I point that out is we do tend to use a lot of acronyms, so you will hear a lot of those as we go through this, but we will explain everything. Some of the work that we do, we accomplish that through many different avenues to support and facilitate medical education. Our efforts include policy and advocacy for medical schools and teaching hospitals. We also have learning and leadership within academic medicine, building membership and to support medical schools and teaching hospitals, and providing services for aspiring physicians and practicing physicians. Let's get started by taking a look at the path to medical school. Whether you're just thinking about a career in medicine, or maybe you know that since you were 2 years old you were going to be a doctor, now you're at the point saying, well, how do I actually become a doctor? The AAMC's Aspiring Docs program is a service provided by the AAMC and offers a lot of resources. Sometimes the topics that students or pre-med students think about are, what's a medical career like for me? What does it entail? How should I get in? How do I go about getting into medical school? Or what's it actually like to practice medicine and treat patients? These types of questions and more are answered on the Aspiring Docs website. Some of the other things that students look to for guidance would be going to the fact sheets. These are one of the most popular resources that the Aspiring Docs website provides. They're just one-page informational documents that answer a lot of questions that pre-med students have. Some of those questions might be, how do I know if a career in medicine is right for me? Or what do I do during my gap year? Or how do I prepare for the MCAT exam? They're all answered on those one-page documents. We have those available on our website. There's an extensive library of over 25 one-page documents to help you answer those questions. We also provide lots of links throughout those fact sheets to take you to additional information. Inspiring Stories are another great resource from the Aspiring Docs website. These are real students, real medical students, residents, and doctors who are sharing their stories of how they accomplished their goals. Sometimes you have to overcome some obstacles. Maybe you had not such great grades, you didn't get all A's, or maybe you're changing careers, or perhaps you had a difficult or challenging childhood. But these are stories from real people who overcame some of those obstacles and got where they are today. And so sometimes it's helpful to hear how others did it so that you can know that there's a way to achieve your goal as well. We also have Inspiring Stories. These are real stories from medical students, residents, and doctors who are sharing their stories about how they approach some of the same goals that you may be interested in. You can also follow Aspiring Docs on Facebook and Twitter. We announce all of the resources that are available for students on those pages, and we ask you to follow along. You also will find information about what's happening in the medical community. The last but most recent addition to the Aspiring Docs website is the Aspiring Docs Diaries. I personally love this. This is real students who are our current medical students, first and second year medical students, who are actually blogging about their experiences during their first year of school. And second year of school. So it can kind of give you a first-hand look of what's really going to happen, or what some types of things that you're going to experience while you're a med student.
Thanks, Julie, and I'm going to take it from there, because once you've been inspired through the Aspiring Docs program, you'll probably want to start to think about, how do I get some experience? And one of the programs that the AAMC offers is called the Summer Medical and Dental Education Program. And that's going to help you, if you go through this program, determine if medicine is the right path for you, and also help you build a strong application. This program is brought to you by the AAMC in partnership with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the American Dental Education Association. It's a great opportunity to learn about what it's like to be a medical student as well as what it's like to be a physician. So the program, it's free. As we mentioned, it's funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. It's a 6-week residential summer program. It's academic enrichment, and it's free for participating students. Each summer, college freshmen, sophomores, and community college students gather at 12 participating medical schools where this takes place, and dental schools, and they experience firsthand what it's like to become a physician or a dentist. So how do you get into a program like this? The application process starts November 1st of each year, and the deadline is March the 1st. And I'm going to say this is a very competitive program, so you are encouraged certainly to apply early. The application requires official transcripts and any and all collegiate coursework. You have to respond to 2 essay prompts, and you also need to provide a letter of recommendation. And you're also able to select your top 3 program sites where you would like to participate in the program. So there are 12 sites across the country. They are geographically diverse, and I would direct you to the smdep.org website where you can see a list of all of those institutions. So, eligibility. First of all, a participating student must be a college freshman, sophomore, or in community college. You have to have an overall GPA of 2.5. You need to be from a disadvantaged background or from a group historically underrepresented in medicine and dentistry, and most importantly, have an interest in medicine and dentistry. It's, again, a good idea to apply early because this is very competitive, and I would also point out that it's a good idea to apply early for any shadowing or medical experience opportunities that you're looking for. SMDEP is in its 25th year, and we've had 20,000 participants in the program, and of that number, 97% have gone on to either medical or dental school, so it's a very successful program.
So I just want to make mention right now, actually, if you're watching this online or if you guys are on your Twitter, you can also feel free, we'll have questions at the end of the presentation, but you can also certainly ask us questions through Twitter at #premed AAMC premed. Okay, so you've gained some experience, and hopefully that's solidified your goal to become a physician. And it's really now time to understand the important resources the AAMC has for you. One great resource that you should know about at this point in the process is the fee assistance program. We at the AAMC believe that the cost for medical school shouldn't be a barrier to those interested in becoming physicians. FAP, as we call it, Fee Assistance Program, assists those people who without financial assistance wouldn't be able to apply for the MCAT or complete their AMCAS application. So the resources that you receive access to if you receive the FAP benefit include a reduced MCAT fees, a free copy of the official guide to the MCAT exam, an access code for the official MCAT assessment package, you receive free access to the MSAR online, and a waiver for the cost of the AMCAS application and AMCAS fees for up to 14 medical schools. Combined, the benefits are worth around $800, so if you think you might be eligible, it's definitely worth investigating. If you are eligible and you do qualify for FAP, there's one very important thing to note about the program. The benefits do not apply if you've already registered for the MCAT or you've already submitted your AMCAS application. The award is not retroactive, so you must apply for fee assistance before you register for the MCAT or submit that AMCAS application. Also, it's important to remember that benefits are only valid for the calendar year in which you apply, so plan your MCAT tests and register and submit your AMCAS accordingly.
So now you've gathered your inspiration and experience, and it's time to look into specific programs and schools that may be of interest to you and that you're considering applying to. The AAMC provides the medical school admissions requirements There's those acronyms, MSAR. It's a suite of guides that covers everything that you need to know about applying to medical school. When you're wondering, how do I learn about specific schools, you don't have to look any farther than the MSR, or other than the MSAR. The MSAR is the only non-biased, comprehensive resource that medical schools, medical programs are available to you. The MSAR actually houses profiles about each of the medical schools so that you can easily compare requirements, missions, statistics, and other information about various institutions. The online database covers 141 U.S. medical schools, 17 Canadian medical schools, and over 40 combined B.S. M.D. programs. So hopefully you can find a program that appeals to both your interests and your goals. The MSAR Getting Started Guidebook is available in print and online, and it outlines medical career options, how to prepare for medical school, and what medical students actually study. MSAR Getting Started has information about admissions decisions, how those decisions are made, how to finance medical school, and also it talks about the other services provided like AMCAT and AMCAS as well. Speaking of MCAT,
so you're probably thinking, when should I take the MCAT exam? And how many in here are going to take the exam next year? And how many are taking it in 2015? And how many know it's changing? Okay, good. So our message is out there. So I'm going to talk about the test. I'm going to talk about the current test. I'm also going to talk about the 2015 exam, and I'll also share the resources that we have available for you. So let's talk about that test. So what is the MCAT? This medical college admission test, MCAT, yet another acronym, is a standardized multiple choice exam. It is computer-based, and you take it at a designated testing facility. There are 3 sections to the exam, and there's also an optional trial section. Almost all U.S. medical schools and many Canadian schools require applicants to take the MCAT exam. So the current exam, what does it look like? It is in, as I mentioned, 3 scored sections and 1 optional section. The 3 sections that are scored are physical sciences, biological sciences, and verbal reasoning. And we mentioned the trial section, and now we're going to go into a little bit about that. This is, again, a voluntary optional section of the exam. When you get to the end of the exam, you'll be asked if you would like to volunteer and opt in to try the trial section. Basically, these are questions that are for the 2015 or the new exam, and so people are trying them out for us. If you opt into this section, you will have 45 minutes to complete it. It's 32 questions, and they are multiple choice. And we're going to try and give you questions that relate to coursework that you have completed, because when you register for the MCAT, we ask about coursework, and so we'll do our best to give you questions that relate to coursework you've already taken. So what's in it for me? If you take the trial section, if you opt into it, those that complete it and put forth a good faith effort based on metrics we've established will receive a $30 Amazon gift card. So in order to get the gift card, as I mentioned, it's a good faith effort. You actually have to try and answer the questions, and correctly if you can. And the section isn't scored, I just want to emphasize that. But what you will receive is feedback on how well you did compared to others who took this section of the exam. That feedback will not be shared with medical schools nor with pre-health advisors. That's information just for you. So at the end, if anybody has any questions about that trial section, just let me know, or tweet at me if you'd like to know more. So moving on with the exam itself, the highest possible score on the MCAT is a 45. The maximum score for each of the 3 sections is 15. I also want to point out, because I've had this question a few times during the conference here, no, the MCAT exam is not curved. So once you decide to take the MCAT exam, you actually have to register for a spot at an authorized testing facility. Exam spots are limited, so it's a good idea to register as soon as you know when you feel like you want to take the test. Make sure that you register with the identification that you plan to use on test day. Make sure it won't expire before test day. And the reason I suggest this is because we need the name that we have in our system to match your identification exactly, because if it does not match, you may not be allowed to test. So when you register for the exam, have the ID you plan to use with you and out so that you can put it in correctly, whether it's a middle initial or a full middle name. So if you're planning to register Wednesday this week, we are planning to open registration for the January through May dates in 2014. And then we'll open the rest of the testing year, June through January of 2015, in the month of February. If you want to know exactly when, if you follow us on Twitter, we will tweet out about that. And also we will put it on our Facebook page that we share with our pals in AMCAS. It will happen sometime between 9 and noon Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, but we don't have an exact time for you. So when you take the MCAT exam is certainly going to be influenced by the fact that it's changing. That may be a consideration. And the first administration of the MCAT exam will be in the spring of 2015. We don't have an exact schedule yet, but we are looking for spring. And so one of the questions we get, why is the exam changing? Well, first, the MCAT is designed to indicate whether an examinee has the potential to succeed in medical school. And it makes sense that it would be changed to keep pace with the changes that are happening in medical school and the subject matter that's being taught. External factors include, are increasingly diverse and changing to the aging population, and we are looking to really mesh what is taught in medical school with what is being looked at on the test. So we're looking to reflect those changes in what you're being presented in the MCAT exam. So changes in healthcare delivery, new scientific information, the changing population, that's all shaping what we are looking at when we change the test. The most recent version of the test last went through a major overhaul in 1991, so it's certainly time for us to take a look at it and make those major changes. And ultimately, what we are looking to do is make sure that the MCAT is changing and keeping pace with the advancements in medical education. So the new exam, it's going to have 4 sections, and we'll report 4 scores for those sections in addition to an overall score. The new test is going to be longer. It'll be about 7 hours, but will include breaks in the day. So the sections, and we have acronyms for these, but I'm not going to use them. I'm actually going to say what they are. The biological and biochemical foundations of living systems, chemical and physical foundations of biological systems, psychological, social, and biological foundations of behavior, and critical analysis and reasoning skills. And that last section is similar to the current verbal reasoning. So now that you know about the current exam and the MCAT 2015, you'll need to decide which exam you want to take. And online, we have kind of a decision tree to help you out with that. And most importantly is there are 2 primary factors that you want to consider when making the decision. The first is when you want to start medical school, and the second is when you're going to be ready to test. And the flow chart that you can find online, this is a sample of it, but there's a lot more detail on these decisions that you want to make. You can find it on the MCAT site. There's a direct link to it with a lot of detail. And if you want to know how long individual schools will accept scores from the MCAT, you can find that information in the MSAR materials that Julie talked about earlier. So once you've decided which exam you want to take, it's a good idea to learn about the test so that you can be ready for it. We have material on our website. We have full content outlines of the current exam on our website. We also have the official guide, which we publish and make available, that has sample questions and answers. We have practice tests online. We even have a free practice test that you can download. We have the self-assessment package, which helps you identify strengths and weaknesses on the various sections. And just to let you know, for MCAT 2015, we are moving forward with those materials. There will be an official guide available for that in the spring of next year. We also plan to have a practice test available next fall for that. And I don't know if any of you have heard about our collaboration with the Khan Academy, but they are preparing video tutorials on the content for the new exam. Next week, we'll be announcing and making public on the Khan Academy site the first 50 of those video tutorials. They'll also have questions with answers. And by next summer, we expect to have 1,000 videos on the Khan Academy website for you to access. It's free, open online access, so there's no charge to access these videos. And finally, tips for exam day. I'm going to recommend you arrive a little early. There is a check-in process that you go through, and that may take a little time. So arrive early so that you have enough time to do the check-in and start your exam on time. I'm going to say it again. Please bring your proper ID with you and make sure it matches what you have put into the registration system. That's very important because you may not be allowed into the testing center if it doesn't match what we have in the system. You can nosh. So feel free to bring snacks and drinks with you because we do offer breaks in the exam. And finally, dress comfortably. The test centers, the temperature may fluctuate and it may be very warm or very chilly. So I suggest you just dress in layers so that you can be comfortable. And with that, after you've taken the MCAT, you're going to be talking about AMCAS. So.
So you've now decided what programs you want to apply to. You've hopefully looked up those requirements in the MSAR and prepared for or taken the MCAT. Now it's time to actually figure out how you're actually going to apply to medical school. At the AAMC, we have the American Medical College Application Service, otherwise known as AMCAS. There's those acronyms again. And this one application, it allows you to apply to 141 U.S. medical schools using this one primary application. So how does AMCAS process actually work? It starts once you complete and submit your online application. Along the way, you'll also send us, or your registrars will send us, your official transcripts from every college or university you've attended. Once we receive both your transcripts and your web application, your application will enter our verification queue. Once our verification team processes your application, it's automatically sent to your designated medical schools. Two important things to note is that MCAT scores are automatically sent to us once they become available, so you don't need to worry about submitting those. And letters of evaluation are sent on a rolling basis as they arrive. So you can submit your AMCAS application before you've taken the MCAT or before we've received your letters. So, key to understanding our process is to realize that our cycle is a year ahead of the current calendar year. For example, right now it's 2013, and we're in the midst of the 2014 AMCAS cycle. This offset is because the current application is for those who hope to start medical school, or as we say, matriculate to medical school in 2014. Our season starts in May, and that's when the application opens. At this point, you can enter your information into the web application, but you can't submit it. It's not until June when the application opens for submission. And what that means is that you can submit your application and AMCAS begins the verification process. Since medical school admissions are on a rolling basis, once medical schools starts receiving AMCAS applicant data in late June, they start their own review processes, which include the secondary applications and in-person interviews. So they send out those secondaries themselves. Since the application is web-based, it can be accessed anytime and on any browser once it opens in May. There are 9 sections of the application, and each of those require you to enter a range of information about yourself. Although the information is relatively straightforward, the application requires a lot of detail, so it's really important to remember that it does take time. So at this point, I thought we'd just kind of walk through those 9 sections to give you a handle on what it is you're going to be entering. The first section of the application is identifying information. It's here where you'll enter your basic personal information, like your names, your ID numbers, your birth information, and so on. When completing this section, we really ask that you be sure to include any school-issued IDs that you have, because that will help us match your transcripts to your application when they arrive. The second section of the application is the schools attended section. In this part of the application, you'll enter information about the high school you've attended, or schools, and any post-secondary institutions you've attended, regardless of whether credit was earned or transferred. The third section of the application is biographic information, which is pretty self-explanatory, but that includes information like your citizenship status, the languages you speak, and information about your family members. Okay, so the fourth section of the application is kind of the beast. It's the coursework section. It's typically the section of the application that takes the most time to complete. On average, applicants enter about 52 courses from approximately 2 or 3 schools. To help you navigate this section, because we understand it can be a bit tricky, we've provided links to our video tutorials that you can access from within the web application, and those kind of demonstrate how to enter some of the different types of coursework you may have. Section 5, work and activities. This is where you have an opportunity to share with medical schools any work experience or activities that you've completed outside of the classroom or the lab, plus any publications you've been involved in. You can add up to 15 entries in this section, and you can actually specify up to 4 occurrences for each of those 15 experiences. You'll also have the chance to select up to 3 experiences as your most meaningful. For the experiences that you deem most meaningful, you'll be asked to reflect on those experiences in writing. The next section is the letters of evaluation section. At this point, you'll enter contact information for those people that will be writing letters on your behalf. You can have up to 10 letter entries, but please, you don't have to put 10 in. AMCAS allows that many entries so that you can choose whether you want to tailor certain letters to certain schools. Most applicants have 2 or 3 letters. If you're working with a pre-health advisor or you're working with the Career Center at your school to send your letters to AMCAS, we suggest that you talk to them and find out if they've got any specific instructions for you about how to fill out this part of the application. Remember, as I mentioned earlier, you can submit your application before AMCAS gets your letters, as they're not required for the verification process. Your letters can only be sent and received by AMCAS after you've started your AMCAS application, but if you do have letter writers who want to submit those earlier, we do work with some external vendors that they can use, like virtual evals and Interfolio, and they can upload their letters earlier than that if they choose. So I really suggest that you check out our website and to get some more information about the letter services we provide, sorry. In the 7th section of the application, it's the medical school section. This is where you will select the schools you want to apply to. The deadline dates, it's very helpful. The deadline dates are shown on the screen after you select a school, but it really does pay to keep track of those deadlines by referring to the MSAR, which Julie mentioned earlier, because once a school's deadline date has passed, you'll no longer be able to apply to that school. The 8th section is the essay section. So here you will write a lovely, I'm sure, 1-page, it's about 5,300 characters, so that's about 1 page, essay, basically just reflecting on why you wish to attend medical school. For those of you thinking about applying to an MD, PhD program, you'll actually be asked to write 2 additional essays. 1 on your motivations for pursuing an MD, PhD program, and 1 detailing your research experiences. The last section of the application, which is Becky's favorite, is the standardized test section. MCAT scores are automatically sent to AMCAS, which I mentioned before. If you've already received your score, it doesn't hurt to check that the score is accurate within your web application. You'll be able to see it in there. You can submit your AMCAS application without the MCAT scores, but you should really indicate your intended future MCAT testing date and keep that information updated throughout the application process. If you don't keep that information up to date, medical schools won't have any way of knowing that you plan on taking a future date. So it's really important to specify if you if you are planning on taking it, next month or the month after. So, as I talked about before, the verification process. Once you've submitted your application, our verification team starts that process. We essentially verify the legitimacy of your official transcripts, and we do a line-by-line comparison of the coursework on those transcripts to all of the courses that you entered within the web application. It's also at this point that we calculate your standardized GPAs. That verification process starts once your application has been submitted and all of your official transcripts have been received by the AMCAS document verification team, and we will notify you once those letters are received. You'll receive an email and you'll be able to log into your web application, and you can check the details page and it will say received. The process usually takes about 6 weeks, and it's done on a first-come, first-served basis. You can keep track of the status of your application, as I mentioned before, by logging into the web application, but we also post information about verification timeframes on the login page to the application and also on our Facebook and our Twitter. So you should certainly follow us at AMCAS Info. And also, once your application is verified, as I mentioned before, it's then transmitted electronically to those medical schools you designated, and then that's that point that they start their own review processes. So I've talked about the web application, but there's actually 2 other services that AMCAS looks after. The AMCAS letter service, I alluded to it before, it allows your letter writers to upload your letters electronically and attach those to your application. This service really cuts down on the time it takes to process, scan, and upload, and then match physical letters that we receive by regular mail. So it's really a key component to the AMCAS resources suite. AMCAS also accepts letters from other electronic services, which I mentioned before, the Interfolio and virtual evals. And we, of course, also still accept letters by regular mail, so you can certainly send, or your letter writers can send it that way too. Secondly, we facilitate criminal background checks on all accepted applicants, and this is to really assist medical schools in evaluating the ability of an individual to receive the appropriate licensing down the road, and also really to, to ensure the trust in the profession of medicine. You certainly have the opportunity to review your criminal background check report before it's sent to medical schools, so you know what schools will see when they receive that report. I mentioned this before, but I just wanted to reiterate, I understand, it's the information that you're entering is very straightforward, but, it can take a bit of time to complete. So to help you fill out and submit your application in the most efficient way possible, we provide you with a bunch of different resources to navigate the process, including video tutorials. We've got a great detailed instruction manual, lots of FAQs and different guides. We also have a fantastic call center, and they're available to answer your questions along the way. So with that, I think we should talk about money.
Okay, so after completing your MCAT exam and your AMCAS application, you're well on your way to becoming, you're well on your way into getting into medical school. However, you might be wondering, how am I going to pay for it? Well, first actually is your answer to that question. We are here to help you along the path to get into medical school and beyond, actually. First is a program through the AAMC. It's called Financial Information Resources, Services, and Tools, and it's actually a service dedicated to helping students, residents, and practicing physicians navigate the complexities of financial aid and understanding student debt and managing money. So it's a lot of information available to students to help them through the entire process, whether they're just starting out or whether they're already a resident or practicing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the cost of medical school. For the 2012-2013 academic year, the median cost to attend an in-state public school was $53,685, while the median cost to attend an in-state private school was $72,344. Now keep in mind, the cost of attendance is actually your tuition, fees, room and board, transportation, and miscellaneous expenses, and this is the cost for 1 year. 86% of the students who graduated in 2012 reported leaving medical school with education expenses. So chances are you are going to have some expenses. You may have some student loan debt by the time you leave your program. 62% of the class of 2012 reported having a debt load of $150,000 or higher. But I do think it's important to note that the median debt level overall for the class of 2012 is $170,000. So now you're probably thinking, wow, that's a lot of money. And you are absolutely right, it is a lot of money. But the good news is that there are ways to finance your medical education and pay for medical school after you're done. We have an extensive suite of resources and materials to help you through formulating a plan and figuring out how to pay for school. Some of the resources that we have available are fact sheets. They're very similar to the Aspiring Docs fact sheets, but they're all about finances, anything from financial aid to basic financial information like protecting yourself from identity theft or creating a budget. We also have videos online that can help you through the financial aid process, repayment charts and estimated timelines for when you will pay back your student loans. We also have additional financial education resources and activities that you can do. One of the online tools that we offer is the Med Loans Organizer and Calculator. Are you ready for another acronym? That would be the MLOC. The Med Loans Organizer and Calculator is something that you can use now and throughout your program and even after school. What it is it's a program online where you can enter, save, even now you can upload your federal loan information into the calculator, and then you can look at different repayment scenarios based upon your particular loan situation. It's a really great resource because not only does it show you what your estimated monthly payment would be depending upon which repayment option you chose, but if you decide to go into public service loan forgiveness, you can see potential amounts forgiven as well. So it's a really great tool, and I'd really recommend that you take a look at that. You know, the AAMC believes that pursuing a medical degree is actually a really good investment in your future, and FIRST is actually here to help you see that investment through. So I really hope you'll take a look at the FIRST website. It's aamc.org/FIRST, and if you have any questions, start there and start with your school's financial aid office because there's a lot of information out there to help you.
So you've now used all of the fantastic resources that the AAMC has to offer, and you've completed all the various steps within the AAMC, and it's now time to hear back from the schools you applied to regarding their admissions decisions, and hopefully you've received an acceptance letter or two. However, if you are placed on an alternate list or you're denied, we really want to emphasize to you that you are not at all out of options. There may be other opportunities with other schools or with other programs, and there's also some great opportunities available at post-baccalaureate programs where you can strengthen your experiences and build up your application. We actually at the AAMC have a really great database that allows you to search all available post-bac programs across the country. So we really suggest that you keep our website bookmarked, which is aamc.org/students. That's aamc.org/students. And from that page, you can actually navigate to all of the pages we've talked about for MCAT, AMCAS, FIRST, Aspiring Docs, MSAR, and SMDEP. So ultimately, AAMC is here to support you and facilitate your medical career with our services and our programs. We're with you every step of the way down that path that you see of that little man who's walking along the way with resources and tools to help you actualize your goal of becoming a physician. Our mission is to serve and to lead the academic medicine community and to improve the health of all. So that's why we are dedicated to you and your success as future physicians. That concludes the formal portion of the presentation. We certainly hope, as I mentioned before, you check our website, and right now we'll start the question and answer portion. Again, wanted to mention about if anybody's watching online.
Hi, Internet.
Hi. You can submit questions on Twitter at #AAMCPremed. And if you do want to answer a question right now, please use the 2 microphones on either side of these 2 main aisles.
For the FAP thing, what website do you have to go to see if you qualify for that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't.
For the FAP, the benefit for the
Financial
MCAT
assistance program?
Yeah. What website do you have to go to for that?
There's information on the website. It's aamc.org/FAP.
Okay.
And it's got everything you need to know about what's required. You know, you'll need things like your parents' W-2 tax forms, W-2s, just to show that you require that financial assistance. And for FAP for 2014, that opens on January 1st.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Good afternoon. I have two questions. The first question is score overlap for the MCAT 2015 from the current test. For example, if I take the current test and for some reason I have to retake it, how do the scores, or how are they looked at each other, if that makes sense?
Do you mean how would a medical school look at a retest?
Yes.
We don't know how each medical school looks at a retest. I would say we always tell people to take the MCAT exam when you are ready for your best effort. And like I said, I can't say how a medical school is going to look at a retest. They may all view it differently. And I want to point out that each MCAT test you take, that exam score is sent to the medical schools you apply to. It's not your most recent score. It's every MCAT score that you took. So you just want to consider, if you feel like you're going to do substantially better, that's something for you to consider. And also, I just want to point out, I've had this question too. If I take the current exam, which goes up through January of 2015, and I decide, you know what, I want to retest, and I want to do it after that January 2015 date, can I just take the exam I took? No, after January 2015, you'll have to take the new test. So that's also something to think about when you're planning when you want to take it and allowing yourself enough time to retest if you're not happy with your score.
I have one more question. I am interested in an MD, PhD, as well as an MD program. Is it okay to have your person writing your letter of recommendation to send in 2 letters of recommendation, one that might be tailored more for the MD, PhD, the other for general MD?
Sure. You can, so as I said, you can have up to 10 letter entries, and you just need to know which, when you select the medical schools you're going to apply to in that section of the AMCAS application, you can then, if they participate in letters of evaluation service, you select which letters each school is going to receive. Okay. So you can attach different ones to each school.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for your help today. It was a real helpful session. I was wondering about committee letters. Do they count towards the letter of recommendation count?
They do. They count as one.
Okay, they count as one.
Yes.
Okay.
So committee letters count as one.
Okay.
If anyone's listening.
Because it's like a compilation from different teachers and things like that.
Yes. Yes. Committee letters, they count as one entry.
Okay. And the other question I had was, some of us have a lot of transcripts from different places. Is it too early to start sending those in so that there are no glitches?
So that's a good question. It's about when can transcripts be received. So we can't receive transcripts until you start your application. So if you're going to say apply for to start in 2015, to start med school in 2015, that application opens in May of 2014, and we can't begin receiving your official transcripts until the application opens, because we have to attach that transcript to your application that you have to start at that point.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Hello. Thank you so far. It has been very informative. And my question was actually regarding taking the exam next year. I would be taking it for the first time, and I was planning on taking it around May and applying for next year's application. If I didn't do so well in May, would it be wise to try to take the exam again next year in the year 2014 so that I wouldn't have to study the new content that's related? Seems like everything revolves around biology from what I've seen in your PowerPoint. And then just apply for the 2015 as long as I felt confident then, or no, it might be frowned upon and it would probably be smarter to just look into taking it for the 2015.
So if you take it early in 2014, there are a lot of dates. After May, we still have lots of dates through the summer, and I believe into September and October. I haven't memorized the schedule yet because it just got published this week, but it is online. So there are opportunities. I will say this. You can't sign up for 2 MCAT exams at one time, holding 2 spots. You can only do one at a time, and I believe it is 7 business days after you've taken the exam that you can then go online and apply for a second. It might be a shorter time period. I'm not sure of the exact time period, but that is indicated on our website. So in May, probably about a week after you've taken the test, if you decide I really think I should, even though you haven't gotten your scores yet, you can go online and you can sign up for another exam date. We have them throughout the summer and, like I said, into September and October. And I would say that my best advice is to take the exam when you feel ready. You can go online right now and download the content outlines, the detailed content outlines about what's on the exam. I know many people do that, print those out and use it kind of as a checklist of what they need to look for. We do have those self-assessment packages that you can use and determine where your strengths and weaknesses are, and you're taking actual exam questions. If you buy the full package, it's over 500 questions, and the full package for all 3 sections of the test is $104. So you get over 500 questions, and right away you'll know how you did compared to other folks who took those same questions, and it'll show you your exact strengths and weaknesses. But again, I would suggest you take the test when you're ready, when you feel prepared to take the test and you feel like you have a good handle on the information that's presented. But I feel like if you take the test in May, you will have time to retest with the current exam, because we are actually offering test dates through January of 2015 for the current exam.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you got the books for the 2014 exam and then wanted to perhaps do bad and retake it in 15, are those books now obsolete and you have to rebuy a whole new set for study material?
Well, when you say whole new set, I'm assuming that there are some test prep companies that offer sets. And while we can't endorse a particular test prep company, the AAMC has as an official guide for the current exam. And then we are also coming out with the official guide for the 2015 exam, and that will be available in the spring of next year. So if you're going to test for the current exam, we have the current guide available, and the new guide will be available in spring of 2014 for the 2015 exam. I'm sorry, lots of numbers and years in there. That's confusing, I know. So is that clear? We'll also have a practice test available for the new exam in the fall of next year.
So in general, it'll cover a whole different set of material versus what happened in 2014?
It's going to require new materials, and I also want to point out that we'll have a set of the complete content outlines for the new 2015 exam. We're going to be putting that on our website toward the end of this month or early November. So again, remember that checklist I mentioned for the current exam? We're going to have that available, the final thing, folks, at the end of this month or beginning of November, so that you can download and take a look at all of the foundational concepts and content categories that are going to be covered on the new exam. And if you stopped by our booth and you picked up your Path to Medical School brochure, in that we have a page that's dedicated to what's the same and what's changing on the exam. It's kind of a comparison chart. We also have that online on our MCAT website that you can take a look at as well.
Hello, I had 2 questions actually. I was wondering, for MCAT scores that are over 3 years old, I know they're invalid, but do the schools still see them? And also, oh, they do?
I'm sorry.
No?
Okay. I just want to say, each medical school determines how old a score they will accept. Okay. So there are some schools that will accept scores that are over 3 years. It's a small percentage. So again, the MSAR will help you determine how long a score is valid for the schools that you are interested in. And I didn't hear, I couldn't hear. And then the second part of the question?
Oh, I was just wondering, will this lecture also be available to view online later if we wanted to re-access it and watch it?
As far as we know, it is going to be available. We're also going to work to make our booklet that we had at our booth available online in a PDF format, because we've gotten such good feedback on that. We want to make that available to people who want to download it.
Was it going to be on your website or?
Yeah, it'll be on our website. Again, each of us has our own unique website URL, but if you want to find out about everything, it's www.aamc.org/students. And that will link you to everything, all of the offerings that the AAMC has.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, I had a question. You had stated earlier that you can only sign up for one MCAT at a time, and you have to wait like 7 days after you take it to sign up for another one. Are you anticipating that the MCAT towards the end of 2014 is going to sell out because most kids are going to want to take it before the new one comes out, or does it normally sell out anyway?
You know, it depends on the popularity of the date and the location. We do anticipate a higher volume, but we have added additional test dates to the calendar to account for that, and that's why we have some additional dates in January and even October next year. So we've added additional dates to the calendar to accommodate what we expect to be an increase in the number of people taking it before the new exam comes.
Okay, so does it normally, without like the change, does it normally sell out towards the end of the year?
Again, I don't know that it sells out. It could be that the location, your preferred location, might not be available, but you can check at other locations. If you go on our website, on the MCAT website, we actually have a list of all the testing centers that are available. So while it might not be in your hometown, it could be that there's one close enough by that you could drive to or take a bus, however you plan to get there, and take it in that location.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi, just have a question. What is the average for people who take MCAT, passed from the first time, and then don't do like retake for it?
The number of test retake, or the percentage, if that's what you're asking, what percentage of people who take the MCAT
and passed from the first time?
And pass it. To be honest, I don't have that information on the top of my head, but if you want to stop by and grab my business card, I would be happy to look that up for you and get back to you and let you know.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's a draw. Who wants to go?
Let's go. So I'm considering signing up for the MCAT in either April or May, and I also want to apply immediately in June. If I take it in May, would the time that it takes for me to get my score back and have that submitted to you slow down this application process at all?
So, I'm sorry, can you,
So I'm going to take it either April or May.
Okay.
But I'm thinking that maybe if I take it in May and I get my application stuff in and done by June, there might be lag time.
It will not slow down your application. So,
okay.
So the application opens in May. You can't submit it until the beginning of June. So if you took the MCAT, say, in May, it's like 30 to 35 days for us to get those scores.
Okay.
But schools, the first time that we push applications out to schools isn't until the end of June.
Okay.
So it'll certainly be available at that point.
And real quick, I want to jump in with a next question. We have a Twitter question, actually. We got tweeted. And Erin, and this is for you, Erin.
Oh.
Erin, I am legally blind with no vision in my right eye. It most certainly has shaped my life. Should I include this or not on my application essay?
Okay, that is a great question, actually. So the essay is really your chance to tell medical schools why you want to pursue a career and what might separate you from the crowd. And the answer essentially is it's completely up to you. It's what you feel you want to communicate to those schools about why this career path is right for you. And just as a reference, in our instruction manual, we kind of talk through some points you might want to communicate in your essay, and some of those questions you might want to consider answering are: why have you selected the field of medicine? What motivates you to learn more about medicine? What do you want medical schools to know about you that hasn't been disclosed in other sections of the application? So that would satisfy, that kind of question. Or also, and what you've mentioned about being legally blind is that we also say, you might want to provide information about special hardships or challenges or obstacles that have influenced your educational pursuits. So that certainly would fall under that kind of tone that you want to set in your essay, but it certainly is up to you how you want to present yourself.
Thanks, Twitter.
Hello. I have a question. So if I took like some summer classes at some different community college, and I already like report the score, the grade I got to my university, do I still have to like report those score again when I apply?
So I just want to make sure I have that right. So you took some courses at a community college and
at different community college.
Okay, and I'm sorry. So you took some courses and they were transferred to another school?
To my home school, like my university, yeah.
Okay, and was that original school, it's in the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay, so if it's in the U.S., then we do require official transcripts if it's a post-secondary institution from anywhere that you've taken courses. So I say that because with foreign institutions, we don't accept foreign transcripts. So if you'll need to submit an official transcript from any post-secondary school. If there's no grade that's reflected on that transcript, then it won't be calculated in your standardized GPAs. Does that answer your question? Yes. You can, no, if it didn't answer it.
Yeah, and another question. If I have like recommend letter of rec from like 2 or 3 years ago, still I have, do you know like how can I resubmit it or something?
If you have a letter?
Yeah, letter of rec, yeah.
Okay, letters of evaluation have to be resubmitted with each application that you start. So if you had some written a few years ago, if you still want those letters to be used when you apply in the future, you'll have to have those letter writers resubmit them through AMCAS.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, I also have a question about the letters of recommendation. Do you get to read them before submitting them to medical schools?
Once letters are submitted to us,
yeah,
we don't allow you to access to those. So you won't be able to see the letters through AMCAS.
Okay.
But I mean, if your letter writers choose to show them to you beforehand, we can't control that. But once they're submitted, we don't provide access to those.
Okay. And my second question is about the FAB application. Is it just once per lifetime that you get to apply? Because I remember you said you have to, if you decide to use it towards the MCAT and the school, they have to be at the same year. You can't just do one application, do MCAT, and then the next year do the...
Okay, good question. So it's about the fee assistance program and how long it's valid for and whether you can take it, it's only valid once. So it is not just valid, well, when you apply 1 year, it's only valid for that calendar year, but you can apply the following year and you can apply the following year, and I believe you can apply up to 5 times or receive the benefit up to 5 times. And so each time you receive it, it will allow you access to those benefits we discussed earlier for that calendar year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to break in real quick with a Twitter question. We have from the Twitterverse, how long does it take for the exam to be added to your application? And I'll just say that your exam score is usually provided to you within 30 to 35 days of taking the exam. And
if you've submitted your application, as soon as you receive access to those MCAT scores, so do we. So it's automatically, once it's released, it's automatically put into your AMCAS application.
Hi, regarding the 2015 test, is it still out of 45?
We haven't determined the score scale yet. Great question. As I mentioned earlier, the current exam, the maximum score is a 45. The score scale for the new exam has not yet been determined, but we plan to announce that in the spring of 2014. And we're also working on materials to help advisors, as well as the medical admissions folks, understand the scores and talk about them, you know, as they relate to what they've seen previously and what they're going to be now.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, back again.
That's okay.
I had another question about the timing of the submission when it opens in June. Is there a big difference between the 1st of June or the 3rd or 4th weeks in June? Do you guys wait till you get a bunch and send it off, or do you send them off to the schools as they come in?
Great question. So it's about submission of the AMCAS application and when do we push them through to medical schools. So if you submit, let's say submission opens on June 1st, and you submit your AMCAS application on June 1st, We process and verify applications on a first-come, first-served basis. So if your web application is done, you've submitted that, and we've gotten all of your official transcripts, you'll be in line in whichever order we got both of those, and we have them both. And so we verify in order as we receive them, and then when we start pushing applications out to medical schools, let's say it's June 28th, on June 28th, every school will get all of the applications we've verified up until that date. So you're right, it's one batch is pushed out. And once that batch is pushed out, then they're sent to medical schools as they're verified.
Okay. And sorry, another question about the MSAR. Does it include data from previous years or just the last year that the data was collected?
It is, I know that it's redone each year.
Okay.
So the information is made, new information is made available every year.
Okay, thanks.
Hello. Regarding transcripts, you were saying that for foreign schools, you're not required to submit them or you don't accept them. However, I was wondering if I was in a foreign medical school for a year and then withdrew, am I required to submit a transcript from that?
You were at a foreign institution for a year?
A foreign medical school, actually.
Was it a
year.
study abroad program?
It was Ross University in the Caribbean.
It was, I can't hear.
Repeat that.
Ross University in the Caribbean.
Oh, Ross University in the Caribbean.
Okay. So foreign institute, so we don't accept, I don't know about Ross University actually, but foreign institutions, we don't accept their transcripts. Just trying to think. So you spent a year studying there. Are those courses, do they show up on your transcript for the institution where you study now? Were those credits transferred?
No, they are not transferred for where I'm studying right now.
Okay. So let me look into that, and if we can talk after this, and I can get that information to you. Okay. Just trying to think. I'll have to look into that, so I can touch base with you afterwards.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Hi. I actually have two questions. The first one, if I take the MCAT next year but apply to med school in 2015, will my score be capped on my accounts for a year? Or
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
if I take the MCAT next year but apply to medical schools in 2015, will the score be capped on my account for 1 year, or will I have?
So each medical school determines how old an exam they will accept. So if you take the exam in 2014 and you plan to apply to medical school for entering in 2015, your exam should be valid. Okay. If you go longer than that, if you plan to take a gap year, the longer your score stays out there, the greater chance that it might not be a valid score for the institution. But again, I would say to check the MSAR because it'll tell you how old a score the school, your schools that you're interested in will accept.
Thank you. Another question about the foreign degree. What if it has been evaluated and matched to a U.S. Equivalent degree? Will you still be considering it?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
About the foreign degree, again the question, what if it has been evaluated and matched to a U.S. equivalent degree? Will you consider that foreign transcript degree?
I can't hear.
I can't hear the question.
The microphone is kind of echoing.
So again, the foreign degree transcript question. So if I have it evaluated and matched to equivalent U.S. bachelor's degree, will you still consider that foreign transcript?
Can you come up here and just ask we're having trouble hearing the microphone.
The microphone's kind of echoing.
So if he has a foreign degree from another university and it transfers to an American university?
No, it has been evaluated.
Oh, it has been evaluated and matched to an equivalent U.S. degree. Does that still work?
Yeah.
So we can talk about that afterwards, but is it a undergraduate degree?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's from a foreign institution?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about that afterward. Foreign transcripts and foreign degrees are a little bit tricky, so we do have a section in the instruction manual that kind of goes through that, the section about how to do that and what we need. So let's talk about that afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You said there was financial aid for the application that's valid for a year. What was the site for that, and what are the requirements?
That's aamc.org/FAP, F-A-P.
What was that, F-A?
F-A-P, as in people.
Okay. And what were the general requirements on that?
It's all on the website, but you need to enter information about your parents, and we'll require tax documents. So there's a couple of different things, but it's all online on that website.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Hi. Hi, I just have one question. It's regarding the verification of the GPA. In sending the transcripts, if you see a person take a course and then later on they took that course again, how would you verify the GPA? Would you calculate both, or would you the higher score?
We get this question a lot. So the way that we standardize GPAs in AMCAS is they factor in every grade you've received, whether you've repeated it or not. They'll factor in the first, if you take it twice, they'll factor in the first grade and the second grade.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And just wanted to add something about MCAT scores. MSAR does have information about how long schools will keep scores, which is something that a couple of people have asked us this weekend. How long will they look at 3 years old or 4 years old? The MSAR that we talked about, that medical school admissions requirement, they will tell you how long each school will look at MCAT scores.
Sorry, we keep looking at our iPhones because our folks back in DC are texting us the tweets that are coming in, so that's why we keep looking at our phones.
And something about the two gentlemen that asked me about foreign coursework. Foreign transcripts, I mentioned this before, are not accepted by AMCAS, even if they are evaluated. That coursework can be entered. You can certainly enter the coursework into the application, but our verifiers won't use that to calculate the MCAS GPA, so it just won't be factored into that part. But the coursework you can enter, we just won't factor that into your GPA.
Any other questions out there?
We got more time.
Hi, so I go to a UC, and so we're on the quarter system, so our last grades of my 4th year, I don't think I would have them by the time that we would submit. So how does that work?
So you can put a special course type against those. If you know which courses those are going to be, you would enter those in the coursework section as courses, and you would specify that they are current or future. So the special course type is current/future. So that way the medical schools know that you intend to take those, especially if they're going to be prerequisites for those schools. Of course, we won't have the grades, so those just won't be factored into the GPAs that we standardize.
Okay, so it could still be verified.
Yes,
though.
you can absolutely still put it in the coursework section.
And then will the schools at some point factor it into my GPA, or?
So we standardize those GPAs, and that's, once we verify it, that's it. We can't, we oftentimes have applicants say, well, now I've finished the course and I have a grade, can you now redo it? And we don't redo it, so we only do it one time. But you're more than welcome, of course, to contact those individual schools and say, I've completed this course and this was the grade I received, so that they know if they're still in their review processes. And it possibly could be something that you could specify in the secondaries they send out. I'm not quite sure what happens after our job is done.
Okay, so unless you do something special, most likely they're not going to see those grades on your primary application. Okay, so you could either wait until you get those grades in, or you could just not have those factored in. That's your two choices.
Totally up to you.
Okay.
If you, as I said, we verify on a first come, first served basis, and medical schools review applications on a rolling basis. So it just depends on whether, those grades are really going to be important to you, and you want to hold off to put them in, or whether you just want to, you want them to just know that you're taking them and, start early. It's completely your call.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to butt in here too. I have some additional questions about the MSAR. MSAR actually has 2 years or 2 years worth of editions are available for subscribers. So that information is actually available for 2 years. We do give all subscribers the 2 most current editions of MSAR and automatically give the subscriber the next edition if their subscription is active. So basically you get 3 editions worth of info during the 1-year subscription. So just to clarify that.
I have also a question about grades. If my institution doesn't factor in the class I failed and retook it into the GPA, do you factor in still?
We factor in letter grades and semester hours. If it's a pass-fail, then that doesn't get incorporated into the standardized GPA.
No, if it's an F, but in my institution it was not calculated into my GPA.
Okay. I see what your question is. Okay, so we calculate your GPA based on the grades that appear exactly on your official transcript. So if you took a course and it says that you received an F, then we'll factor that F in, even if your school doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
My question is regarding languages. If you have moderate proficiency in a language, but not like completely fluent, should you still put that on your application?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's in the 2nd or 3rd section. We ask what languages you speak, and we encourage you to, and you specify your proficiency. So you would select whichever languages, and it'll say, you know, advanced, or I can't remember the exact wording, but you'll say your proficiency level. So certainly put all the languages you can speak.
Hi, I go to community college, and our GPA is calculated differently than the UC's. We just have it straight across, so an A and an A- are factored the same. How do you factor in the differences between how the institutions factor GPAs?
So we don't, it's almost like it's a clean slate when it comes to AMCAS. As I mentioned, we factor those grades in exactly as they appear on the official transcript. So we don't follow a certain system that one school uses or another school uses, and how they've calculated the one that, for instance, UC Davis has for you. Mm-hmm. We certainly factor in a minus or a plus. We have different levels for that. It's all done through some, cyberspace system. I don't know how it's calculated, but it tracks all of those grades and it comes out with that GPA. So it doesn't matter what your schools have said, it just matters what's on those transcripts, the actual grades themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hi, my question is, can you apply to too many schools, and will the schools know how many schools that you are applied to?
So you can apply to as many schools as you want to apply to. To give you if you're thinking financial, it's $160. Well, the application fees aren't, they change each year. They have the potential to change each year, but to give you an idea, this year's it's $160 to start an AMCAS application, to submit an AMCAS application, and then it's $35 for each medical school that you apply to. So, if you apply to 100, that's quite a chunk of change. So that's totally up to you if you want to dish it out. The schools do not see what schools you apply, other schools you apply to. They don't have access to that. Next, I can't quite remember at what point. It's in the end of winter, early spring time. But there is schools at that point will receive access to an acceptance report. So they'll just be able to see if school A accepts you and school B accepts you, then school A and B can see that you got accepted to both of those. Okay. But they won't see that you applied to school C, D, E, F, G, H if you didn't get accepted.
Okay, nice, okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions?
We have 16 minutes left. I can tap dance.
Doesn't look like we have any Twitter questions either.
Okay.
I have a question for Julie. You said about your website give subscribe for 2 years, or all the information that you have. Can people subscribe for 2 years?
For the MSAR?
Yes.
Once you subscribe 1 year, you will have actually 3 years worth of materials available to you.
Okay, so how we can subscribe?
Say that again?
How we can get subscribed to the information that you took?
If you go on the website to aamc.org/MSAR,
And is it free or there is fee for it?
You do need to pay for it. The MSAR is $22 online.
Okay, thank you.
Did you have another question?
I did, but
Step on up to the mic, my friend.
I got to remember it.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Well, then you have to tap dance. We don't. No other questions? Until he remembers his? Well, just some things we want to make sure we reiterate. All of the information and even more is on our website.
So much
again,
more.
www.aamc.org/students, and you will be able to link to whatever you are looking for.
He remembers.
I did remember. My question is regarding the type of classes. Does AMCAS release to the institution if it's a online or seminar-based class? Those kind of specifics.
So like if it's, you took a MOOC.
Exactly.
Which is a massive open online course. See, we're not the only ones that do acronyms, but that's what a MOOC is. Kaplan is an example, or not Kaplan, I'm sorry, Khan Academy is an example of a MOOC. Massive open online courses. And the question is, I guess, is it, university-based versus online-based? Is that the question?
For example, I went to an accredited university that has one professor in front of Skype that broadcasts to 30 students in different locations, and on our transcript that is considered a online-based class. It actually says that. Will AMCAS release that information to the medical school institution?
No, so you determine when you enter the courses in the AMCAS application, you also specify the course classification. I don't think that's one of the course classifications, but it's about the content. We don't necessarily, although you do specify if a class has a lab, you would specify that. But in the case that you're talking about it being an online course, unless it specifically specifies that on your transcript, which would require you to enter that course as it's written on your transcript, we don't necessarily delineate whether it's online or in class. So, no, I don't think so.
My next question is regarding military service. The military has a smart transcript online. Do we submit that as well to
You do, absolutely, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions from the Twitterverse, and it doesn't look like we have any more questions here, although you're more than welcome to come up if you have a personal question you'd like to ask and didn't want to use the microphone.
One final thing about the MSAR. We just want to reiterate how great it is. That's not what I want to say. The MSAR links in each profile if community colleges, online or AP courses will be accepted. So it's a really thorough resource. So we certainly recommend that you take a look at it, and it's a great resource to have throughout this entire process.
Oh, and it looks like we have another question coming down the aisle.
That reminded me of AP courses. Do we have to send those in separately through the AP course system, or is that on transcripts or anything?
Do you send it, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
You mentioned AP courses.
Yeah.
Do we have to send those in from the AP course website, or are they on our transcripts for
No,
college?
certainly, so we don't want you sending high school transcripts or their certificates from advanced placements. As long as they are reflected on your transcript as an AP course, then that's all we need to see. As long as it's on the official transcript from the school that gave you credit for that course.
Okay.
And you would actually, when you list it in your coursework section, you'll, like the current and future question, you would specify there's a special course type that's AP. So you would specify that.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Looks like Erin is going to have time to tap dance.
Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Goodbye, Internet.